A villain's origin story is as critical to their development as anything else. It provides a structure and foundation for all of their problematic decisions to come, and in their eyes, even justification. The origin of Louie's villain arc throughout Snowfall is no different, and rest assured, it is indeed a villain arc. And in today's video, we'll explore how we got here and make predictions for its ending. Before we begin, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and bell notification to immediately receive these videos. Also, big thank you to all of my channel donors. If you'd like to be the next one, drop $1 on that Cash App for us. And lastly, a spoiler alert is now in effect for all things Snowfall. Here we go. Louie was introduced to us way back in Season 1 as the main piece to Franklin's fun-loving uncle, Jerome. The two made a great pair, but her background was vastly contrary to his. Louie had essentially come from the gutter. The earlier seasons made mention of her turning tricks, being pimped out, and also dabbling in drugs to the point of excess, something that inspired the rage we witnessed in Jerome when Franklin brought it to light during their climactic argument. I say these things not to slander her character, but to further define it. Louie was a loner of sorts, and not only that, but one that was used, abused, and controlled by ancillary figures looking to benefit off her good looks, charm, hustling ethics, and unfortunately, her weak will, at least at the time. The most notable of these figures was Claudia Crane, Louie's old lover who she used to hustle with. Claudia's presence in Louie's story is paramount to her villain arc, as it's the pain that Claudia inspired that motivated Louie to never relive it again. Remember, Louie introduced a younger, more naive Franklin to Claudia in an effort to jumpstart his hustle. However, during their reassociation, Claudia would persistently find ways to minimize Louie and her growing confidence as the money began to roll in. That void of self-doubt was perpetually filled by Claudia's overtures and made Louie feel that familiar sentiment of loneliness, destitution, and unworthiness. This was only compounded by her romantic issues with Jerome at the time. The source of Louie's pain was rooted in the humiliation generated by this situationship and spilled over into an all-out brawl between the two women. After this fight, Louie's reconciliation with Jerome and Claudia's destruction of Rome's speaker store in retaliation, Louie paid Claudia a final visit, only to discover her in a state of weakness herself, the same state she was always placed in by her former muse. Louie would go on to cement her destructive origin by killing Claudia, something we wouldn't find out until her LSD-filled wedding. With this act, Franklin's underlying antagonist was born, though none of us were wiser to how deep this event really affected the story. Louie would remain a good soldier in Franklin's army despite the many hiccups, which included stumbling into a gang war that no one asked for, one that nearly cost Louie her life and Jerome his sanity. During Saint's recovery from near death by gunshot, courtesy of his former love, Louie had the opportunity to fully learn the drug business from a heightened angle. She took care of her nephew's affairs with the help of Jerome and made a simmering connection with his plug, Teddy McDonald, evidence of which could be seen throughout their friendliness in Season 4. Following the failed attempt on her life, Louie decided it was time for her and Jerome to run the business their way, as they saw fit. Franklin's expansion idea and Louie's success in advancing it only served to support their independent endeavors. Though apprehensive of all the changes taking place around him, Franklin continued business with his family, still hoping to complete his own vision of Americanism, one where families take control of an industry and then expand it through generations by any means, even if it meant bloodshed in between. However, the underlying differences fully surfaced as Louie's ambition and power began to grow. In her most controversial act, Louie undercut her nephew by brokering a deal with the plug directly, essentially freeing herself from Franklin entirely. She didn't share his collective vision of familial dominance. As she saw it, she was on the precipice of her own version of liberation, a version that would free her from any entanglements outside of Jerome. Nothing could be further from the truth, understanding that she just traded one overlord, Franklin, for another one in Teddy. In one fell swoop, she destroyed one of the series' most beloved relationships, and the fallout has been immense to start, even deadly. An interesting scene from episode 601 depicts Jerome and Louie meeting with Scully, who they'd befriended in the prior season. The former criminal turned religious monk encouraged the two to bridge the gap between their broken family. After all, he would be an authority on such an issue given all that he's lost. Scully offered his wisdom along with a warning and gave the two a token of divine ordinance, as he called it, upon departure. Though the spiritual gift of family was preserved by Jerome, we witnessed it destroyed by Louie. The act represented their opposing stance on the situation at hand. Jerome, though conflicted as ever before, wished to maintain his family. Louie, on the other hand, could honestly care less about it. After all, it falls in line with her origin to begin with. She was then and is now a loner, motivated and governed by the spirit of individualism, as every great villain is, whereas Jerome was a family man. Even his final confrontation with Franklin detailed his motivation for moving to Los Angeles, his family, in relationship with Franklin to be exact. This divide will eventually disrupt his marriage with Louie as well, as fences begin to mend and his eyes are opened. As for Louie, her desire for power and revenge will only grow as the season continues, and in the final act, it may just cost her her life, or even worse, a blinded Jerome's, unwilling to choose between the woman he loves and the family he's been bound to protect. His yearning for death was clearly visible in that aforementioned conflict with Franklin, where his nephew was provoked to pull a strap on his uncle and father figure. But what are your thoughts on all of this? How will Louie's villain arc pan out in Snowfall's final season? Be sure to drop me your opinions in the comments below. As always, I thank you for watching today's video. If you liked today's video, go ahead and drop $1 on that Cash App for us, hit the like button, share it with your friends who are fans of Snowfall, and subscribe for more content such as this. This is Rudy P. Magic of Rudy P. Magic Beats, and have a blessed one until the next one. Peace, y'all.